Hello and welcome to Primary 1. We're disappointed this year that we can't meet you face to face, but we hope that this presentation gives you an insight to the expectations, the learning and the fun to be had in Primary 1. Here are our staff in Primary 1. We have myself, Mrs. Turner, I'm the Squirrels class teacher. Mr. Robinson is the Hedgehogs class teacher, and we have wonderful PSAs, Mrs. Hussain, Mrs. Swanson, Mrs. Caddy and Miss Quinn. As part of transition, we're also incredibly lucky to have some members of the nursery staff come to work with small groups of children.
Here at Cramond, we're really lucky to incorporate a play-based approach to learning in Primary 1, which encourages independence, creativity and exploration. It also allows our learners to develop positive relationships with all of their classmates and peers and help to develop those friendships that we hope they'll carry on throughout primary school. Play is a completely natural way of learning and exploring and is fundamental in preparing children to be successful learners in future. Within both the Hedgehogs and the Squirrels classrooms, there's opportunity for play in a variety of different ways. For example, there are bigger areas for block play, such as the construction corners, as well as small world play, which practice fine motor skills. We also have areas for writing and drawing, painting and crafts, as well as areas for relaxation, such as our story corners. Through such an approach, there are a number of key skills being practiced, such as communication, social development, fine and gross motor skills, as well as problem solving and creativity. Play is mentioned lots throughout the Curriculum for Excellence early level for Primary 1 in exploring different settings and becoming confident and successful learners. Our Primary 1 setting is set up in 4 different key areas: the Squirrels and Hedgehogs classrooms, the garden, which is now moved to the inner courtyard, as well as the owl room, which is a breakout space that both classes will get to use fortnightly, which incorporates our home corner and other different types of small world play. The following few slides are just a couple of examples of work and play that have been going on in Primary 1 since we started back.
Primary 1 so far. Already we're incredibly impressed at the confidence and resilience with which your children have embraced their new routine within the school environment. Here are some of the things the children have been introduced to so far and you may have heard about at home. Domino patterns. At each activity within the classroom, there is a picture of a domino pattern. The children know that this represents how many children can play at that activity. If they arrive wanting to play at that activity and there are already that number of children, they then know to choose something else and to come and try again later. In the playground, at playtime and at lunchtime, each class within the school has a specific area in which they play to keep them in their class bubble. Their designated area is rotated on a weekly basis to allow children to experience all areas of the playground. Having our lunches in the classroom allows for super interaction between the children as they chat while they're having their lunch. Golden rules. Through wonderful stories, the children have been introduced to the 6 very special rules which underpin the expectations of behaviour within our classroom. These golden rules are: we listen, we are kind and helpful, we look after property, we are gentle, we work hard, and we are honest. Linked with these golden rules is our pebble system. Each child has a tub with their photograph on it. If any member of staff happens to see somebody following the golden rules without being reminded or asked, then they might reward the child with a pebble. When the children collect 20 pebbles, they are given a certificate and one of the pebbles to keep and take home. The pebbles are emptied back and then we start all over again. Many of the children are developing great independence with their own toileting and putting on their jackets, and we would encourage that children continue to practice this at home, particularly doing up zips as we come into the colder weather. We are very lucky to have 2 additional spaces where our children can play. We have a 3rd room set up for role play and other areas of play, which we call the owl room, and we also have in the inner courtyard our very own Primary 1 garden. The Hedgehogs and Squirrels classes rotate using these on a weekly basis. If one week the Hedgehogs are in the owl room, then that week the Squirrels will have the garden, and then we swap over the following week. So here's what a typical day in Primary 1 will look like. Before playtime, When the children come in the morning, they'll self-register by putting a stone with their name on it away in a basket. We then have what we call soft start. This just means that the children come into the classroom and can start playing with the activities. It's a good chance for them to catch up with each other, and it's also a good chance for us to catch up with them and have a little chat too. We stop and have a gather time where we do a registration, and then we'll look at our timetable, a visual timetable on the wall which shows the children their day. We will then have a whole class teaching input for literacy. At the beginning of the week we would introduce the sound. The consecutive days we would be revisiting the sound. The children will then have the opportunity to play in our classroom, and it might be our turn in the owl room, or they will be in the classroom and rotating to the garden, while we withdraw small groups to the teaching table for specific input. Again, the children are involved in managing this. When they have been at the teaching table, we'll then give them a photograph of another child that we want to come to the teaching table next. They'll take that photograph and they will go and find that child, and they know when they're given their photograph that it's their turn to come to the teaching table. We'll then play the Tidy Up Rumba, which is the song that we use, and the children know instantly when they hear it that it's time to start tidying the room. It's also a good one that you might want to use at home. We then have playtime outside, where each week we're given a specific area to play in, and again this is rotated round the classes. When the children come back in, it's snack and story time. After playtime, again there's a whole class teaching input, this time for numeracy, and then just like before, the children will have the opportunity to play in the classroom or in the owl room or in the garden, while we again withdraw small groups for teaching input and a variety of focused activities. As a follow-up to reinforce learning or a key skill that we have been looking at the teaching table, we will set what we call a target job. The children know that they are expected to complete this target job independently at some point in their week. Then it's time to wash our hands and go outside to play for half an hour, at the end of which the children then come into the classroom for their lunch. Afternoons are very flexible, allowing us to cover many different areas of the curriculum, some of which examples are given within the slide.
Literacy in Primary 1. When teaching our 26 initial sounds, we use Jolly Phonics to help us, and each sound comes with a song and an action to help remember. We will be learning and focusing on one initial sound every week, and when we finish all 26, we will move on to digraphs and blends. Blends are sounds that have two sounds within them that work together to form a new sound altogether. For example, S and H. The S and the H work together to form the sound sh. Each week we will also learn one new tricky word, and alongside the sound, these will be posted on learning journals for the weekly focus. You can practice these at home as well to reinforce home learning, and if you would like to access the Jolly Phonics songs, they are accessible on YouTube via the link on screen. When teaching our initial sounds, we use the sound of the letter to identify it rather than the name of the letter. This helps when blending and crashing sounds together to build CVC words, and these are words that are made up of consonant, vowel, consonant. Each week after learning our new sound of the week, we will add it to our magnetic board, and as we develop our knowledge of sounds, we can then begin to build these CVC words. When we have enough sounds to begin CVC building, we'll pull sounds down individually and then crash them together. For example, in the word sat, the first sound we hear is s. So we'll pull that one down first. Our vowel sound in the middle we can hear is a, and our final sound is t. When teaching this, we would encourage the children to take the first sound for a walk until it crashes into the second one. S. That then becomes sa, and we then take these two sounds for a walk until it crashes into the final one. Sa becomes sat. In terms of handwriting, we will practice formation of each sound every week when we learn them. And our writing also follows the Foundations of Writing programme, which means that every week we do a black line drawing, and we are trying to add more and more detail each week to tell a story through our drawing. As our sound knowledge and CVC word building knowledge develops, we will then look towards writing small sentences towards the end of Primary 1. In practicing listening and talking skills, learning partners are often used to build confidence and develop skills in turn taking and listening to others. There will also be a chance for a solo talk in Term 4 to practice these skills of speaking in front of a group of people. Here's an overview of the reading in Primary 1. Reading in Primary 1 is primarily based on the enjoyment of reading and storytelling, so listening to stories. Every day the children are read to at snack time, and we then use this time as well to practice tricky words and common words. When we begin reading books, we will start with picture books and use this as practice for predictions and taking context clues from the pictures. We will also use this time when looking at picture books to practice keywords in reading. For example, in Oxford Reading Tree, we will practice words such as mum, dad, biff, chip, kipper, and floppy, which come up quite often. After finishing all of our initial sounds, we will be word building, CVC words, and blending these sounds together, which will help practice these reading skills, and reading will be taught in class in January. Reading at home should be reading for enjoyment with the child's choice of book. For example, the library is a great resource, and these can be anything from comics to picture books to stories, and just enjoying stories with your family. Reading books might be sent home after Easter with a reading wall of suggested activities to try and complete. However, we will wait for further guidance on whether this may be possible.
When supporting literacy at home, reading to or with your child is an invaluable way of helping them to start to see words written down, to recognise sounds, and to hear sounds in their favourite story. Playing games like I Spy are a fantastic way to encourage a child to hear the sound at the beginning of words. Have some fun singing rhyming songs and nursery rhymes. Numeracy and Maths in Primary 1. The programme we use in Primary 1 to teach number is a programme called SEAL, which stands for Stages of Early Arithmetical Learning. We look at number in a variety of ways which help children to develop an understanding of the concepts and processes of number, to recall number facts, and to develop mental strategies that they can apply to solve problems and real-life situations. The underpinning of this knowledge will enable them to continue to apply problem solving to increasingly complex number problems. We spend time looking at patterns in different ways: domino patterns, finger patterns, random patterns, and pairs patterns. We do a lot of counting backwards and forwards, but we will also start and stop at different numbers. Children then become quicker at knowing which number comes before and after. This will also help when it comes to addition and subtraction. When we begin addition, we reassure the child it's okay to use their fingers to help them. We also count two collections of objects together to ensure children understand what addition means before we learn how to write an addition sum. We also can use word problems, so we'll maybe say to the child, if I have 5 apples and you had 2 apples, how many apples would we have altogether? Children will then move on to applying different strategies, for example, counting on, where when they see a written sum like 5 and 3, they would put the 5 in their head and just count on 6, 7, 8, rather than counting all the way from 1. We teach the children doubles, 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4, 5 and 5, and 6 and 6. This way, when they see a near double sum, for example, 5 add 4, if they know that 4 and 4 is 8, they would only need to add 1 more. Some children will also see that 5 and 5 would make 10, so by taking 1 away, that would also give them the correct answer. When we finally progress to subtraction, again we look at counting objects, then taking some away, how many are left, then moving on to strategies of counting back to subtract, or by knowing a number fact to mentally solve how much is left. One of the resources we use in school is Numicon. Numicon is an approach to teaching maths that helps children to see connections between numbers. Each plastic piece has a different colour and a pattern that represents the numbers 1 to 10. When the pieces are arranged in order like this, children can easily see connections between numbers, such as 1 more, 1 less. How to support your child in number at home. Thinking about patterns, play games with a dice pattern, for example snakes and ladders, which is also good for counting, or a game of dominoes. Get the children to show numbers with their fingers. Ask them questions and get them to answer by showing you on their fingers in different ways. Count lots of different items in the house or when you're out and about on walks. Practice counting forwards and backwards and starting and stopping at different numbers.
These are some of the topics we've planned to cover in Primary 1 this year. Here are a few of the Primary 1 topics that we hope to cover this year. Some of these will be introduced through a storybook, and we can then have a discussion and encourage children to give their opinions on what they would like to learn. This allows for child-led learning. As a school, we've been using Microsoft Teams as a homeschool communication platform, and our weekly learning plans will be posted there each week in the Primary 1 Learn Anywhere channel. Login details for our Primary 1s will be given out shortly. As well as Teams, as a school, we use learning journals as a platform for reporting and for home communication. We will post photos, observations and comments on your child's learning journal page termly, and this will take the place of our reports. And because children are unable to bring in physical evidence of home learning, this is then an opportunity for you to share photos of home learning and outer school experiences with us.
Home learning. Home learning should be fun, done in short bursts and fit around your home life. Each week we will post our Primary 1 learning focus on your child's learning journal. This will show the sound of the week, the maths focus, any topics that we're covering, which numbers we're looking at, and which tricky words we've been learning as well. We appreciate that the children not only come home extremely tired after a day at school, but also may have other activities to go on to. The purpose of home learning in Primary 1 is to support the learning that's been done in class and to just have a bit of revision time and again an opportunity to talk with your child about what they've been learning in class. The focus for reading at home will be for enjoyment, snuggling up with a book at night or talking about their favourite stories with you at home. Children will not be bringing school reading books home until the summer term.
In terms of how we share progression of learning, we have a couple of different platforms that we use. Our red folders collect work from throughout the year that we can then share at Parents' Night to use in discussion. Our Parents' Nights are scheduled for October and March, and details will be to follow on how they are to be arranged. Our Learning Journals is our online reporting platform that we use termly to report on learning and to upload observations. It can also be used as a home learning platform for you to share photographs of the home learning. Our planning is visible in our corridor, and our weekly plans will be shared on Teams to help with home learning. And our learning focus is shared weekly on Learning Journals. We'll post this every Friday for the following week. Health and safety. We've been practicing lots of hand washing and hand sanitising, and we do this as soon as we come in the morning, before and after playtimes, before and after PE, as well as before and after eating and lunchtime. Our tables are also cleaned before having food on them as well. In following recent government guidance, clubs can resume from October as well as indoor PE, and we'll be sure to keep you updated with any clubs and opportunities offered for Primary 1. With this new guidance, our days for PE may change due to timetabling for indoor, so we will update you when this is finalised.
Lastly, a few reminders. Please send your child in appropriate clothing every day. Not only will they be outside at playtime and lunchtime in almost all weathers, but it might be their class's turn for the garden that week. Please put their name on everything. On PE days, on our Mondays and Wednesdays, if the children can come in outdoor trainers, and can they please bring a water bottle that's filled every day. We usually do encourage children not to bring in toys from home, but this is particularly important in the current climate. We hope this has given you some insight into your child's time in Primary 1. It's definitely easier for us to have had an audience in front of us to be able to show you and talk through some things, but we hope this has answered some of your questions or queries that you may have had. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to chatting soon.